The jungle of Krasli pulsed under the twin suns, their golden light threading through the canopy to shimmer on Dawa's defiant walls. Stone and iron vine wove together, patched with vines and hope, a sanctuary risen from the ruins of a shattered world. Ayatu stood atop a weathered platform, her scarred hands gripping its edge, her dark blue hair swaying in the humid breeze. Her fur, once a vibrant cascade, hung patchy from Argob's cruel serums, but her black eyes burned with a fire no torment could quench. Below, Dawa thrummed, crass, hybrids, and exiles, toiling side by side, their hammer strikes and laughter a heartbeat against the jungle's song. Lyra, her 16-year-old daughter, wove through the crowd, her blue-gray skin a mark of her crass Argobian blood, her laughter a spark that warmed Ayatu's chest. Chaded, her partner, knelt nearby, his pale Argobian frame bent over a salvaged data core, piecing together fragments of their lost past. 5 years had passed since Dawa's founding, yet the weight of their journey clung like the jungle's damp air. Ayatu's gaze drifted to the horizon, where tangled green hid the scars of a war that had nearly broken her people. Her mind traced the path that led here, a saga of love, loss, and defiance etched into her bones. 10 millennia ago, Krasli gleamed as a beacon, its crystalline cities soaring under these same suns. The Kras, tall and blue-furred, their luminous eyes alight with dreams, built the Argob moonbase to conquer the stars. But pride fractured their world. Orin's glittering spires clashed with Kaido's rugged jungles, their rivalry ignited by Verilium, a radiant, volatile power that fueled ambition and doom. War erupted, atomic fire consuming Krasli, leaving ash and silence. A few Cadans survived in the wilds, while Argob's scientists faced exile, their dreams buried in dust. Centuries later, Ayatu was born into a Krasli reborn in green. Her people, now hunter-gatherers, revered the jungle and shunned the forbidden grounds. Ruins cursed by their ancestors' fall. Restless and bold, Ayatu defied those fears, drawn to the ruins' secrets. Her hunt for a Shalok, a six-legged beast with venomous claws, proved her strength but sparked her father Debray's anger. Bravery without wisdom is ruin, he warned, his voice heavy with love and fear. Yet the jungle's call was her truth, its pulse her guide. On Argob, the stranded scientists had become Argobians, pale, hairless, their bodies reshaped by the blood of a moon predator to endure its radiation. A leader, Borso, wove a myth of betrayal, claiming Krasli had abandoned them. This lie fueled their austere society, their dark pyramid a shrine to resentment. Mastering space travel, they turned their eyes to Krasli, not for reunion, but revenge. Ayatu's world collided with Chaded, an Argobian scientist seeking truth in the ruins. Their meeting, her arrow drawn, his hand raised in peace, kindled a forbidden love. She showed him the jungle's heart. He revealed Krasli's lost glory from the stars. Their bond defied their world's hatred, but secrets unravel. Her village caught them, branding Chaded a gray, accursed outsider. Debray, torn between love and duty, banished Ayatu. Her possessions burned as a purge. The Chaded offered her Argob, and she followed, an exile bound by love. Argob was a sterile prison. Its radiation serum stripped her fur. Its synthetic food mocked her jungle feasts. The council, led by the ruthless Hashim, despised her as a crass savage, forcing her through grueling labor, factories, farms, clinics, where her dignity was violated, her eggs stolen for research. Yet her love for Chaded, Lyra, and her son Kale fueled her fight. Fidbar, an Argobian elite, became her tormentor, his obsession erupting in a night of horror. Paralyzing Ayatu and Chaded, he targeted their children. A misfired dart killed Kale, shattering her world. Lyra survived, but Fidbar's cruelty, burning Ayatu with toxins, threatening to refine Lyra, pushed her to breaking. Her crass strength snapped the paralytic, and she killed him. her grief a vow carved in blood. Fidbar's death shook Argob. The council exiled Ayatu, Chated, and Lyra to Crasly, branding them traitors. Fidbar's betrayal exposed the underground, a resistance Chated helped lead to unravel the council's lies. Hashim crushed dissent, but Chated and the underground's core, backed by the shadowy financier Bastion, escaped. On Crasly, Ayatu forged Dawa, a sanctuary for outcasts, its name meaning hope in the old tongue. Reuniting with Dibre, his pride soothed her scars, and together they built a community to defy Argob's shadow. Now, Ayatu exhaled, the memories a heavy anchor. Dawa was no mere refuge, it was Crasly's soul, a promise to Kale's memory and her people's future. Lyra's laughter drew her back and she smiled, catching Chated's eye. He nodded, his quiet strength her tether. But the horizon held shadows. Argobian ships prowled, their beryllium weapons a growing threat. Whispers of betrayal stirred within Dawa, and Crass in labor camps cried for freedom. A faint rustle broke her thoughts. Isme, Godia's elder, approached, her lean frame cloaked in quill-woven armor, her eyes guarded. Ayatu, she said, voice low, Vranka's with you, but my archers need time. Our old feuds die hard. Her gaze flickered, a hint of something unspoken. Loyalty, perhaps, or a deeper game. Ayatu noted it, her instincts sharp. We need Godia, Ayatu said, her tone firm but open. Argob won't wait for our grudges to fade. Isme nodded, her bow dipping slightly, but her silence lingered, a thread of mystery. As she left, Lyra bounded up, her eyes bright with her mother's fire. Ready to help, Mama? Always, Ayatu said, ruffling her daughter's hair. Check the traps with Rin, we need every edge. The jungle of Crasly thrummed with primal life, its air heavy with the scent of damp earth, blooming vines, and the faint musk of unseen beasts. Crasly's twin suns pierced the canopy, casting dappled gold across the forest floor, where shadows danced like specters. Lyra crouched low, her blue-gray skin blending with the undergrowth, her dark blue hair bound in a tight braid. At 16, she moved with her mother Ayatu's grace, her hybrid frame lean and honed by years in Dawa's wilds. Her black eyes, sharp as obsidian, scanned every rustle, her senses a taut bowstring. In her hands she gripped an iron vine bow, its curve a gift from her mother, its weight a promise. Today, Lyra hunted not for food or glory, but to prove herself, to etch her name in a world that whispered, half Crass, half Argobian, wholly other. Her quarry was the Zendo, a beast smaller than the Shalok her mother had slain, but no less deadly. Knee-high, it sprinted on two powerful legs, its sleek body armored in quills, vivid reds, blues, and yellows that shimmered like a warning flame. Its beak, sharp as a forged blade, could snap bone, and its speed made it a ghost in the jungle's tangle. Dawa's hunters shunned Zendos. Their quills were prized for tools and ornaments, but their agility was a gambler's curse. To Lyra, the Zendo was a mirror, restless, fierce, misunderstood. This hunt was her test, her claim to a place in Dawa's heart. She'd slipped away at dawn, Dawa's hum fading behind her. Ayatu was buried in council duties, rallying tribes against Argov's shadow, while Chated tinkered with salvaged tech from the Forbidden Grounds. Lyra told no one. She craved no warnings, no worried glances. This was hers alone. The jungle was her kin, its rhythms pulsing with her heartbeat, yet today it thrummed with menace, as if the vines themselves whispered caution. She moved silently, bare feet soft on mossy earth, her bow slung across her back. A faint, musky tang hung in the air. The Zendo's trail, sharp and fresh. Hours bled away, the sun's climbing, sweat beading on her brow. Lyra's patience, honed by Ayatu's teachings, was her strength. She tracked broken twigs, claw-scratched bark, and faint quill marks in the mud, her senses weaving with the jungle's chorus, birdsong, insect drones, the distant roar of a waterfall. A sudden snap froze her, heart pounding. She dropped behind a gnarled root, its thorns grazing her skin. Ahead, in a sunlit clearing, the Zendo stood, its quills a blaze of color as it tore at a cluster of glowing berries, oblivious. Its beak glinted, wickedly sharp, its yellow eyes darting. Lyra's breath steadied, her hands sure, as she nocked an arrow, its fletching brushed with calming herbs, a trick from her mother. The Zendo's speed was its shield. She'd have one shot before it vanished. Her eyes locked on its flank, where quills parted to reveal softer scales, a fragile target. The jungle held its breath. She drew the bowstring, her hybrid strength a fusion of crass stamina and Obebian precision. The Zendo's head snapped up, sensing her. Too late. Her arrow hissed through the air, striking its side. The beast screeched, a piercing wail that sent birds scattering and bolted, quills flaring as it zigzagged into the trees. Lyra cursed, already sprinting. The chase ignited her veins, the jungle blurring as she leaped roots and ducked vines. Her movements a dancer's grace honed by years of survival. The Zendo was a streak of color, but she was relentless, her crass blood fueling her endurance, her Obebian focus narrowing the world to its vibrant trail. A low branch loomed. She vaulted it, landing lightly, her eyes never wavering. The ground grew treacherous, slick with mud from a recent rain, and the air thickened, heavy with the scent of an approaching storm. The Zendo darted toward a ravine, its quills snagging on vines, slowing it just enough. Lyra skidded to a halt, knocking another arrow. The creature spun, beak snapping, eyes wild with fury. Time stretched, Ayatu's voice echoed. The jungle tests you, Lyra. Trust your heart, not just your aim. She exhaled, loosed the arrow. It grazed the Zendo's neck, drawing blood but missing the kill. The beast screeched, lunging toward the ravine's edge, where the ground dropped into a mist-shrouded chasm. Lyra's heart raced. She couldn't lose it now. She sprinted after it, the jungle's edge giving way to a rocky outcrop. The Zendo teetered, its claws scrabbling on loose stone. Below, the ravine yawned, its depths alive with the roar of a hidden river. Lyra drew her blade, a quill-forged dagger ready to end the hunt. But the ground trembled. A low growl shook the air, not from the Zendo, but something larger? A Shalok emerged from the mist, its 6 legs churning, venomous claws gleaming. Its massive form dwarfed the Zendo, its eyes locked on Lyra. The Zendo froze, caught between predator and hunter. Lyra's breath caught, her mother's tales of Shalok hunts flashing through her mind. This was no longer just a test, it was survival. Lyra stood frozen on the ravine's edge, her quill-forged dagger clutched tight, the Shalok's guttural growl vibrating through her bones. The Zendo, quills flared in panic, darted sideways, its wounded flank trailing blood. Krasley's twin sons hung heavy, their light glinting off the Shalok's venomous claws, each as long as Lyra's arm. The beast's 6 legs shifted, its bulk blocking her path back to the jungle. Behind her, the ravine's misty depths roared, a fall that promised death. Her hunt had turned into a crucible, the jungle testing her as it once tested Ayatu. She backed slowly, her black eyes flicking between the Shalok and the Zendo. The smaller beast, sensing its chance, bolted toward a cluster of vines, but the Shalok lunged, its claws slashing. The Zendo screeched, quills scattering as it tumbled, alive but dazed. Lyra seized the moment, knocking an arrow with trembling hands. Her mother's voice rang again. The jungle gives, and it takes. Choose your fight. The Shalok's eyes locked on her, ignoring the Zendo. Lyra fired, the arrow striking its shoulder, lodging in thick hide but not slowing it. The beast roared, charging. Lyra dove, rolling across jagged rocks, pain flaring as a stone cut her knee. She scrambled up, her bow lost in the tumble, her dagger her only weapon. The Shalok's claws raked the air where she'd stood, its bulk shaking the outcrop. The Zendo, still alive, darted for the ravine's edge, its quills catching the wind. Lyra's heart screamed to finish her hunt, but survival took precedence. She sprinted after the Zendo, toward a narrow ledge overhanging the chasm. The Shalok pursued, its claws cracking stone. Lyra's foot slipped on loose gravel, her body teetering. Below, the river roared, its spray cold against her skin. She caught a vine, its thorns biting her palm, and swung onto the ledge, her breath ragged. The Zendo was cornered, its quills drooping, blood seeping from its wounds. Lyra raised her dagger, ready to end it, but the Shalok's shadow loomed. She spun, slashing wildly, the blade grazing the beast's claw. It recoiled, giving her a heartbeat to act. She grabbed a loose quill from the Zendo's scatter, its venom-tipped edge gleaming, and hurled it at the Shalok's eye. The beast roared, staggering back, momentarily blinded. Lyra turned to the Zendo, her dagger flashing. The creature's beak snapped, but it was too weak. Her blade found its neck, and it collapsed, its colors fading. She knelt, whispering a crass prayer. "Thank you. Your strength serves, Dawa." Her hands worked fast, harvesting quills in the beak, her trophy earned through blood and fire. The Shalok recovered, its roar shaking the ledge. Lyra scrambled back, clutching her prizes, and leaped for a vine dangling over the ravine. The stone crumbled under the Shalok's weight, and it plummeted, its scream swallowed by the river below. Lyra clung to the vine, her heart pounding, the jungle's pulse her own. A rustle broke her relief. She spun, dagger raised, as Zara emerged from the trees, her pale Argobian face tense. "Lyra, damn it, you're reckless," she said, her stolen pulse rifle slung across her back. "I saw you slip out. Nice kill, but a Shalok. You're lucky to be alive." Lyra's chest heaved, triumph and exhaustion warring. "I had to," she said, holding up the Zendo's beak. "For me, for Dawa." Zara's eyes softened, a flicker of respect. "You've got Ayatu's fire, but the jungle's not the only fight. Argob's ships are moving. Rin's scouts saw them near Vrenka." Lyra's jaw tightened, the beak heavy in her hand. "Then we arm Dawa with this," she said, gesturing to the quills, "and we fight." As they trekked back, the jungle's song returned, fierce and alive. Lyra's hunt had forged her, its dangers a mirror to the war ahead. Argob's shadow loomed, and whispers of Godia's archers stirred. Friend or foe, she couldn't yet know, but her heart burned, a spark of Dawa's fire, ready to face whatever came.
The council chamber on Argob gleamed with sterile precision, its obsidian walls swallowing the artificial light like a ravenous void. The air thrummed with tension, the city's power grid a low pulse beneath the councilors' hushed murmurs, each word a spark in a chamber thick with ambition and dread. Hashim stood at the head of a polished table, his towering frame draped in dark robes that seemed to drink the light. His pale face was a mask of controlled fury, but his black eyes, sharp as forged blades, betrayed a flicker of unease, a crack in his iron resolve. He swept his gaze over Argob's elite, their expressions a volatile mix of fear, deference, and hidden calculation. The chamber felt like a trap, ready to ignite. "Dawa," Hashim said, the name a venomous hiss, dripping with disdain. "A city of crass savages, rising from the jungle's filth. They dare to build a fortress against us." The councillors shifted, unease rippling like a current. Councillor Vera, her angular face etched with skepticism, leaned forward, her voice measured but sharp. "A city? The crass are primitives, Hashim. Scavengers at best. How could they muster such a thing?" Hashim's lips curled into a sneer, his hand flicking to a holographic display. It flickered to life, projecting grainy images from a scout ship, Dawa's stone walls entwined with iron vine, cleared paths bustling with crass and hybrids, makeshift turrets glinting with salvaged Argobian tech. The city stood defiant, no mere camp but a stronghold pulsing with purpose, its heart a challenge to Argob's dominion. "They are not alone," Hashim said, his voice a blade slicing through the murmurs. "Defectors, our own kin, feed their rebellion. Argobian tech bolsters their defenses, stolen by traitors in our ranks. This is no rabble. It's a spark, cloaked in stone and hope, and it will burn us if we let it grow." Counselor let his gaunt frame hunched like a predator poised to strike, hissed, "Ayatu leads them. The blue savage. Her survival mocks us, Hashim. Fidbar's death at her hand stains our pride." Murmurs of assent rose, tinged with fear. Ayatu's name was a specter, her defiance a crack in Argob's polished order. 5 years ago, her killing of Fidbar, a crass felling and Argobian elite, had shaken the council, an unthinkable act. Her exile was meant to break her, yet Dawa's rise proved her unbowed, a wound that festered in Hashem's mind. He paced, his robes whispering against the floor, his fists clenching as if to crush the memory. Dawa is a cancer, he said, his voice low and lethal. If we let it spread, it will unite Krasli's wilds against us. They'll become civilized, a threat we cannot abide. Vera's brow furrowed, her skepticism sharpening. Civilized? They're jungle dwellers, Hashem. Even with defectors, they lack our discipline, our science. Their bows and spears are no match for our ships. Underestimate them at our peril, Hashem snapped, his eyes flashing with barely contained rage. Ayatu rallies exiles, hybrids, even our own traitors. Bastion's shadow looms. Credits vanish, tech slips through our grasp. Dawa is no myth. It's a blade at our throat, and it sharpens with every stolen rifle. The chamber stilled, his words settling like ash. Bastion, the elusive financier, was a ghost haunting Argob's corridors, their loyalty a facade. Hashem's spies had failed to unmask them, each untraced credit fueling Dawa's growth. The underground, led by Chad, gnawed at his control, their whispers spreading like rot. Counselor Mekir, head of research, spoke, his voice clinical, devoid of warmth. The Kras have resilience, the hybrids adaptability. If we seize Dawa, we can harvest their biology, perfect our genome. Their city, their beryllium, their future, all ours to claim. Hashem's smile was ice, his nod approving. Precisely. Dawa's defiance is our excuse. We invade, crush their hope, and chain their strength to our will. Krasli will kneel, its jungles our forge. Let his lean forward, his eyes glinting with predatory zeal. And the weapon? The Virilium core is nearly complete. One strike could raze their city, leave nothing but ash. Hashem's gaze darkened, his mind tracing the Virilium weapon's schematics, a relic of Krasli's ancient doom, its power drawn from the planet's molten heart. It could level jungles, but its instability haunted him, the Great War's scars a silent warning. Not yet, he said, his voice measured. The weapon's untested, a gamble. We invade with force, ships, enforcers, drones. Dawa will fall, its people enslaved. The weapon is our last card. Vera hesitated, her voice soft but cutting. An invasion risks our own. Krasli's jungles are brutal, gravity, beasts, disease. The underground grows bolder, Chad's rebels slipping through our nets. And Bastion, she trailed off, her eyes flicking to Hashem's. His fists clenched, his composure fraying like a worn thread. Chad is a gnat, the underground a dying ember. Bastion will be found. We'll burn them all out. Krasli's wilds will bow to our tech, our will. We strike now, before Dawa's roots deepen. He turned to the hologram, Dawa's walls glowing defiantly. The Kras think they can rise, he said, his voice a low growl. We'll remind them they're tools, not equals. Their city will be ours, their hope our chains. The counselors exchanged glances, their doubts smothered by Hashem's resolve. Let his raised a hand, his voice firm. I move for invasion. Immediate, total. Mekir nodded, his tone sealing it. Seconded. Let Krasli kneel. One by one, hands rose, a cold tide of approval. Vera's hesitation lingered, her eyes searching Hashem's for a flaw, but she raised her hand, cowed by his glare. The vote was unanimous. Prepare the fleet, Hashem commanded, his smile a blade. Enforcers, drones, all we have. We descend on Krasli at dawn. Dawa will fall, and Ayatu will beg for mercy. The chamber erupted in purpose, counselors dispersing to mobilize Argob's might. Hashem lingered, his eyes locked on the hologram, Dawa's faint glow a challenge he'd crush. He didn't see the cracks, Bastion's hidden hand, the underground's quiet pulse, or the Krass' unyielding spirit. He descended to the War Forge, a cavernous hall where the air burned with the acrid tang of molten beryllium. Krass children, stolen from razed villages, toiled in chains, their small hands forging plasma rifles and drone cores. Sparks flew, machines roared, and enforcers patrolled, their black armor glinting. Hashim's gaze swept over the forge, his vision of Krasli's subjugation taking form. But a shadow stirred. In a shadowed alcove, he confronted a technician, a wiry Argobian named Kren, suspected of funneling tech to the underground. Kren's pale hands trembled as he faced Hashim, his eyes darting. "I've done nothing, Lord Hashim," he stammered. Hashim leaned close, his voice a venomous whisper. "Lies rot faster than flesh, Kren. A shipment vanished near Vrenka, pulse rifles, enough to arm a Krass village. Speak, or I'll carve the truth from you." Kren's resolve cracked, but he shook his head. "I swear, I'm loyal." Hashim's hand struck, a swift blow that sent Kren sprawling. "Find the traitor," he barked to an enforcer. "And tighten the forge's locks. No more leaks." As Kren was dragged away, Hashim's gaze returned to the forge's glow. The Krass children's eyes, hollow with fear, met his for a moment, and he turned away, unmoved. They were tools, like Dawa, like Krasli. But a flicker of doubt gnawed at him, whispers of Godia, a village of archers, their motives unclear. He'd heard of their hatred for Dawa, a potential ally, but something in the scout reports felt off, like a signal scrambled by static. In the jungle, Dawa stood unaware, its people building under the twin suns. But Argob's shadow loomed, its ships poised to strike, and the fight for Krasli's soul was about to ignite. Somewhere, in the stars beyond, a greater destiny waited, one that would echo through galaxies, carried by those who would one day be called Greys.
The jungle of Krasli hummed with a restless chorus, its vines swaying under the amber and crimson glow of the twin suns. Ayatu stood at the edge of a clearing, her tattered cloak, woven from iron vine and patched with zendo quills, clinging to her scarred frame, a testament to her years of defiance. Her dark blue hair caught the breeze, her black eyes scanning the undergrowth for threats. Behind her, Dawa's scouts, two Krass hunters, Kiv and Taro, their blue fur streaked with war paint, and Zara, the Argobian pilot with her stolen pulse rifle, waited in tense silence, their presence a fragile bridge between worlds. Ayatu's mission was clear: unite Krasli's scattered tribes under Dawa's banner to stand against Argob's looming invasion. But the jungle was a fractured realm, its people bound by old wounds and new fears, and she knew this path would be as perilous as any Sherlock hunt. Her first stop was Vrenka, a village ravaged by Argob's labor camps. Its wooden platforms sagged, half reclaimed by vines, the air thick with the scent of charred wood and despair. The elder, Tula, a wiry Krass with silver-streaked fur, greeted Ayatu with a wary nod, her eyes lingering on Zara's pale skin but holding no malice. Ayatu spoke plainly, her voice steady as stone. Dawa rises to defy Hashim's tyranny, a sanctuary for Krass, hybrids, and defectors. Argob's beryllium weapon threatens to burn our jungles. We need Vrenka's spears to hold the line. Tula's gaze hardened, her fingers tracing a whip scar across her arm, a mark of Argob's cruelty. They stole our strongest, she said, voice raw with grief. Our children toil in their camps, forging their war machines. If Dawa fights, Vrenka stands with you. Ayatu clasped Tula's arm, Krass style, sealing the bond. Your warriors strengthen us, she said. Dawa's gates are open. Vrenka's hunters stepped forward, their iron vine spears gleaming, their anger a fire that mirrored her own. As Ayatu turned to leave, Tula pressed a carved Zendo quill into her hand, its vibrant hues a token of alliance. For Dawa, Tula said. Burn their chains. The trek to Oris was less forgiving. Nestled in a river gorge, its platforms perched on cliffs above a churning torrent, Oris was a stronghold of stubborn pride and deep-seated fear of the Greys, Argobians seen as cursed aliens. Ayatu approached alone, leaving Zara and the scouts hidden in the jungle to avoid sparking violence. The elder, Quiva, stood flanked by warriors, their iron-vine bows drawn taut, arrows tipped with venomous quills. His matted fur bristled, his eyes cold as he glared at Ayatu. We know of Dawa, Quiva spat. You harbor Greys, taint our blood. Your father's tales of unity don't erase their ruin. Ayatu stood firm, her voice calm but unyielding, her hand resting lightly on her own bow. Bray fights for all Crass, Quiva. Dawa blends our strength with their knowledge to break Argob's grip. Alone, we fall. Together, we rise. Quiva's laugh was bitter, echoing off the gorge. Bring a Grey here, and our arrows will answer. Oris stands alone. His warriors stepped forward, bows creaking, their threat a wall of intent. Ayatu held their gaze, her heart steady despite the sting of rejection. She backed away, her mission too vital for bloodshed. When Argob's ships darken your skies, she said softly, you'll need Dawa. As she rejoined her scouts, a sudden roar split the air, an Argobian scout drone, its beryllium core glowing, buzzed low over the gorge. Zara raised her rifle, but Ayatu signaled for cover. The drone's sensors swept the jungle, its hum a warning of Hashem's reach. Kiv whispered, they're watching us. Ayatu's jaw tightened. Then we move fast. Oris's fear will break when they see the truth. The drone passed, but its presence lingered, a reminder of the storm closing in. Vrenka's alliance was a spark, but Oris's refusal was a crack in her dream of unity. Clutching Tula's quill, Ayatu pressed on, her resolve aflame against the jungle's weight. The next challenge, Godia, would test her like no other.
The iron-vine bridges of Godia twisted high above the jungle floor, creaking under the last heat of Krasley's twin suns. The village, hidden in the canopy, belonged to the master archers, fierce, proud, and sworn enemies of Ayatu's bloodline. The old feud between her father, Bray, and the Godian elders had begun with a dispute over sacred land. It had only worsened over the years through raids, revenge, and blood. Ayatu climbed the final bridge with her scouts close behind, Kiv and Taro holding their spears, Zara remaining in the shadows with her rifle at the ready. Her presence as an Argobian hybrid was dangerous here. One wrong move, and they would all be targets. At the village's edge stood Elder Ismi, tall and lean in quill-woven armor. Her bow hung in her hand, strung so tightly it hummed with tension. Her eyes, sharp and cold, locked onto Ayatu. Bray's daughter, Ismi said with disdain. Your blood carries his shame. Why should Godia hear you? Ayatu took a steady breath. Argob doesn't care about our feud, Ismi. Their ships are coming, Hashem's fleet, burning with beryllium. Dawa fights for all of Krasley, not just my father's kin. Join us, or Godia falls alone. Ismi's lips curled. Dawa is a mongrel city. You mix with Greys and call it unity. We call it weakness. We would sooner die than stand beside you. Ayatu stepped forward. You know my father's heart. He fights for every tree and every child in Krasley, including yours. Your archers could turn the tide. Your quills could bring down their machines. Hate us, Ismi. But fight with us. A tense silence followed. One of the younger archers, a scarred boy not much older than Lyra, spat at Ayatu's feet. "Your people stole our land," he said. "And now you want help? We'll shoot any Grey, or you, if you come back." Ayatu said nothing. But she noticed Ismi's eyes flick briefly to a nearby totem carved from ironwood. Its spiral design mirrored Vrenka's token, the same mark used by the old resistance. A sign? A warning? Or nothing at all? Then came a snap. A vine, broken underfoot. Everyone turned, bows and spears raised. The Shalok lunged from the shadows. It was massive, its 6 venomous claws gleaming in the fading light. Archers fired. Spears flew. Kiv and Taro rushed to intercept it. Zara emerged from the trees, her rifle firing blue-hot bolts into its flanks. The beast smashed through a platform, shrieking. Ayatu rolled across the wood, dragging Ismi to safety. Then she rose, pulled a single quill arrow from her belt, and loosed it into the Shalok's eye. It dropped with a final, shuddering growl. Silence fell. The archers lowered their weapons, stunned. Ismi looked at Ayatu with something like recognition. "You fight like us," she said, her voice quiet now. She reached into her quiver and handed Ayatu a single arrow, its fletching marked with a subtle spiral, identical to the one on the totem. Ayatu accepted it, her expression unreadable. "Think on it," she said. "When the skies darken, Dawa will stand. We'll go Dia." As Ayatu turned to leave, the jungle seemed heavier with silence. Zara caught up beside her. "Ismi's playing a game," she whispered. "That arrow, it's a message. She's not what she seems." Ayatu nodded, her fingers wrapped around the spiral-fletched shaft. The answer wasn't clear. But the message was. The jungle was choosing sides. And soon, so would Godia. The twin suns dipped below Krasley's tangled canopy, casting long shadows across the jungle. Then came the screams. From the treetop village of Teru, chaos erupted as sleek Argobian ships roared through the sky, their engines howling like predators. Wooden platforms cracked and fell, torched by plasma fire. The 3rd village hit in just 1 week. Ayatu crouched behind a mossy boulder, bow drawn tight. Her muscles tensed, heart pounding. Beside her, Zara steadied a stolen Argobian rifle, her pale face unreadable but focused. Around them, 3 Kras scouts, Kiv, Taro, and Sun, moved through the undergrowth, war paint gleaming faintly in the fading light. The air stank of smoke and terror. Argob wasn't whispering anymore, they were screaming their power from the sky. Teru was burning, and its children were being dragged into ships like livestock. Ayatu saw it clearly, a young Kras girl, blue fur matted with soot, kicking wildly as armored enforcers hauled her up the ramp. Her mother lay bleeding nearby, arrow still clutched in her hand. Ayatu's fists tightened. "Zara," she hissed. "Hit the enforcers. We go now." Zara's rifle hummed to life. "I can take a few, but I can't punch through their shields." "Then we draw them out," Ayatu said. She loosed a venom-tipped arrow into the ship's exhaust vent. Sparks flew. The ship lurched. The enforcers turned, just as Zara opened fire. Kras arrows sliced the air. One enforcer dropped, then another. The girl slipped free and bolted into the jungle. Ayatu charged in, blade drawn. "Run," she told the child, guiding her to cover. More enforcers poured out, plasma bolts lighting up the trees. One grazed Ayatu's arm. She barely flinched. They were losing ground fast. "More kids in that ship," she growled to Zara. "We need to get in." Zara shook her head. Ayatu, we're outnumbered. That's suicide. Then we make them come to us. Ayatu grabbed a thorn vine and hurled it into the ramp's gears. It jammed with a shriek of metal. The delay was enough. Enforcers rushed to clear it, exposing themselves to arrows and rifle fire. 3 more fell. Then came the second ship. Its drones rained down like metal wasps, glowing with beryllium energy. Plasma bolts seared the air. A blast struck Sen in the leg, he screamed and dropped. Ayatu dove to him, dragging him behind cover. "Stay with me," she said, binding the wound with a strip from her cloak. Zara downed a drone, but the second ship had landed. Heavily armed enforcers emerged. The first ship roared to life, ramp grinding shut. Ayatu's last arrow bounced off the hull. The ship lifted, vanishing into the clouds, Crass children still trapped inside. Silence settled, broken only by Sen's ragged breathing and the quiet sob of a rescued girl. "They took my brother," she whispered. "They took them all." Ayatu knelt, placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. Her voice was steady, but her chest ached. "We'll get them back. Dawa will fight for them." She turned to Kiv and Taro. "Take her to Vrenka. Tell them Argob is stealing our future." As they left, Zara stayed behind, eyes dark. "This isn't just a raid. This is a purge. They're building something. Those kids, they're making weapons." Ayatu looked to the blackened sky. Zara was right. The council wasn't just harvesting Crass strength, it was forging it into tools of war. And Krasley's refusal to unite was playing right into Argob's hands. "We need a plan," Zara said. Ayatu's voice came low, cold, and certain. "Then we hit back. Hard." The jungle closed behind them. Teru had fallen. But the fire in Ayatu's chest hadn't. It was only just beginning. The jungle was dark now, really dark. Krasley's twin sons had vanished behind the thick canopy, leaving only streaks of violet mist and the low hum of restless creatures. But Ayatu wasn't here to listen. She was here to strike back. Teru was gone. Burned. Children taken. Their cries still echoed in her mind, each one like a knife she couldn't pull out. She moved through the underbrush like a shadow, her scars hidden beneath layers of vine and quill-stitched armor. Behind her, Zara's stolen Argobian rifle glowed faintly, a small pulse of resistance in a forest choked by silence. Kiv and Taro flanked them, their blue fur smeared with ash, their war paint cracked but proud. Sen limped behind, injured but defiant, his spear now a crutch. They reached the path, narrow, choked with roots, perfect for an ambush. Word had come from Rin, an Argobian convoy would pass here tonight. Plasma rifles, power cells, maybe even a drone corps. If they could take the shipment, Dawa would finally have teeth. Ayatu crouched. "Rin's traps are set," she whispered. Vine snares, spiked pits, poison-tipped quills hidden under leaves. "Hit the flank, pull them in, take the cargo." Zara checked her rifle. 10 shots. That's it. Make them count. The jungle held its breath. Then came the low hum, hover sleds. Sleek. Black. Deadly. 6 enforcers. 1 drone. Each step they took was a threat, each beat of Ayatu's heart a countdown. She struck first. An arrow sliced through the dark, sparking off the drone's sensor array. It spiraled and crashed into a tree. Confusion. Shouting. Kiv and Taro's arrows followed. Zara's rifle lit the shadows blue. An enforcer dropped, then another. Ayatu charged into the traps. One enforcer fell into a pit, quills tearing through armor. Another thrashed in a snare, screaming as venom took hold. But they were trained. Precise. One pinned Zara down with rapid fire. Ayatu dove through mud, slashed a leg, took a fist to the jaw. Blood filled her mouth. Kiv struck. Spear through chest. Up, he barked. They reached the lead sled. Cargo crates shimmered, rifles, batteries, a glowing drone core. Taro hacked the controls. But from the rear, a massive enforcer emerged, plasma rifle roaring. A bolt hit Taro's shoulder. He dropped, crying out. Ayatu didn't hesitate. She grabbed a loose quill, flung it at his visor. Glass shattered. She charged. He was enhanced, too strong, too fast. He swung wildly. Zara's last bolt burned through his armor. Ayatu's blade found his throat. Silence fell. Then, a noise. A soft hum. A distress beacon. Ayatu froze. The signal, faint, scrambled, but familiar. Not just Argobian. Coded with something else. Something crass. Godia, she muttered. A Godian frequency buried in Argobian static. Was Izmi playing both sides? Zara snatched the drone core. We've got it. But that signal, someone's watching. Ayatu nodded, lifting a crate of rifles. Dawa needs these. Let's move. They dragged the cargo through the thickening mud. A distant roar echoed, Shalok. Drawn by blood. The jungle twisted. A ravine opened. Mist clung to their skin like breath. A shadow moved. An enforcer. Mist in the chaos. Perched above them, rifle aimed. He fired. Zara barely dodged. Ayatu grabbed a vine, swung wide, tackled him hard. They fought on the edge. His strength crushed her ribs, but she stabbed deep. He fell, screaming into the mist. Breathless, she returned. Blood dripped from her palm. Run, she shouted. They pushed forward, roots snagging, feet slipping. Ahead, Dawa's lights, barely visible. A whistle cut through the air. Senators still alive. They collapsed into Dawa's clearing, crates in hand. The gates opened. Soldiers rushed forward. They had done it. Inside, Ayatu wrapped Taro's wound. Zara studied the drone core, its beryllium glow dancing across her face. This tech, it's centuries ahead. Hashem wants a future none of us are ready for. Ayatu said nothing. Her hand gripped the comm unit. The hidden frequency still crackled. Godia was hiding something. She stood, her voice sharp. We arm Dawa. And we burn their chains, for every child they took. Outside, the jungle's wind howled. But inside the fortress, rebellion had found its flame. The warforge of Argob roared with fury, a monstrous machine churning out weapons beneath a ceiling that never saw the sky. Sparks lit the chamber like angry fireflies. Children, crass children, worked in chains, their fingers blackened, assembling the very tools meant to destroy their own people. Above it all stood Hashem, robes black, gaze cold, ambition hotter than the forges below. Plasma rifles, drone cores, beryllium-fueled machines, every beat of this place was a step toward making Krasley kneel. But cracks were forming. Weapons were disappearing. Convoys hijacked. Blueprints stolen. And worst of all, rumors of Chad, the traitor, arming Dawa with Argobian tech. Now, Hashem stood face to face with Netzi, a captured pilot. Her ship had been intercepted leaving Argob, packed with stolen gear. She knelt in a holding cell, bruised but defiant, her chin raised even as blood ran from her lip. "You fed our enemies," Hashem said, voice barely above a whisper. "Why?" Netzi stared up, eyes fierce. "Because the Crass aren't the savages, you are. You chain children. Burn homes. You're tearing our world apart." Hashem struck her. Hard. "Who's helping Dawa?" he hissed. Netzi coughed, but smiled through the pain. "Everyone. Your soldiers. Your techs. Even the council. But if you want a name." Hashem leaned in. "Godia," she said. He froze. "The archers. They hate Ayatu. Hate her vision of unity. Give them weapons, and they'll tear Dawa down for you." Silence. Then, an idea. Sharp. Ruthless. Hashem straightened and summoned Counselor Let-His. "The invasion?" Let-His asked, eyes glittering. "Not yet," Hashem said. "First, we plant a knife. Godia. A village of proud archers. Enemies of Dawa's hybrid dream. Hashem would send them weapons, pulse rifles, drones, but cloak the delivery. Let them think it came from an ally. Let them strike Dawa while Argob watched from the shadows. When both bleed," Hashem said, "we descend." Let-His nodded. "And the traitors? Root them out. All of them. Chad. Bastion. Anyone who breathes resistance." As Let-His vanished into the dark halls, Hashem turned to the map. Godia marked in red. Dawa glowing defiantly at its center. A cloaked ship was already in the air, headed for Elder Izmi with crates of Argobian tech and a single message. "Crush Dawa. Save Krasley." Hashem's plan was in motion. But as he stared at the map, Netzi's words echoed, a tremor he couldn't ignore. "You think you're controlling chaos. But chaos doesn't take orders." And somewhere in Krasley's wild heart, a storm was brewing. The Warforge roared with relentless fury, its chambers a crucible of molten beryllium and clashing metal. Sparks rained from automated arms, forging plasma rifles and drone chassis, while Krass children toiled below, their chained hands trembling as they assembled weapons under Enforcer's watchful visors. The air was thick with the acrid tang of molten ore and fear, a testament to Hashem's dominion. But beneath the forge's pulse, a different rhythm stirred, a whisper of sabotage, a spark of the underground's defiance. Hashem stood in the command hub, a raised platform overlooking the forge's chaos, his dark robes stark against the flickering green glow. A holoscreen displayed Netzi's intercepted ship logs, revealing a trail of stolen shipments, pulse rifles, power cells, even a prototype drone core, funneled to Dawa's jungles. The underground was bleeding him, and Bastion, their elusive financier, remained a ghost. His spies had traced a new lead. A technician, Varn, suspected of tampering with the Forge's beryllium reactors. If true, a single sabotage could cripple Argob's war machine. Hashem descended to the Forge's heart, his boots echoing on metal grates. Enforcers parted, their visors glinting, as he approached a reactor chamber where Varn worked, his pale hands adjusting a glowing core. Hashem's voice cut through the din, "Varn. Step away." Varn froze, his eyes darting, a bead of sweat betraying him. "Lord Hashem, I." "Silence," Hashem growled, signaling an enforcer to seize him. But a sudden hum surged, the reactor's core pulsing erratically. Alarms blared, red lights flashing as technicians scrambled. Varn bolted, darting through the forge's maze of machinery, his frame vanishing into shadows. Hashem roared, "Seal the chamber." Enforcers surged, rifles raised, but the forge's chaos was Varn's ally. Sparks flew, obscuring sensors, as he slipped through a maintenance shaft. Hashem sprinted after him, his robes billowing, his enhanced strength propelling him over crates and past molten streams. The shaft led to a lower level, a labyrinth of pipes and humming cores, the air searing with heat. Varn cornered himself near a reactor, holding a blinking detonator. "Stay back. This core's rigged." Hashem didn't blink. "You die for them? For the Crass? For freedom," Varn said, trembling. "You chain children. You'll chain us all." He pressed the detonator. Hashem lunged, blade flashing, slicing Varn's arm and sending the device skidding across the floor. But it was too late. The core pulsed violently, then exploded. Heat engulfed them. Shrapnel screamed. When the smoke cleared, Hashem rose, scorched but alive. Varn lay broken, lifeless beside him. Half the forge was crippled. Rage consumed Hashem. They're inside, he snarled to his officers. "Bastion's here. Inside our walls." And then came another blow. A scout's voice crackled through the comms. "Shipment to Godia delivered. But, we detected a spiral pulse from their platforms." Dawa's code. Godia. Allies of Ayatu. Netzi had lied. Hashem's eyes narrowed, calculating again. Double the invasion force. No, triple it. Watch Godia. If they betray us. He didn't finish the sentence. Above, the forge flickered and hissed, still alive, but bleeding. The blade of Argob had been tempered, but cracked. And in the jungle, Ayatu rallied her people, unaware that the war wasn't just coming. It had already begun. Dawa had changed. Where once vines and mud barely held it together, now stood a thriving stronghold. Salvaged Argobian drones buzzed like lazy flies over rooftops made of iron vine and stone. Makeshift turrets guarded the skies, patched together by crass ingenuity and underground tech. The children of the jungle walked with pride again. Ayatu moved through the heart of the village like a storm wrapped in calm. Her touch on a shoulder, a nod to a passing fighter, every gesture carried weight. Her people, Crass, hybrid, refugee, looked to her now not just as a leader, but as the flame holding the darkness at bay. At her side, Chad kept watch. His eyes, once broken by loss, had found new purpose here, rewiring captured drones, teaching Crass teenagers how to turn Argob's own weapons against them. Zara leaned casually against a wall nearby, her stolen pulse rifle slung across her back. She had once flown for Argob. Now, she hunted them. And the Thornclaws? They were becoming legend. Guerrilla fighters trained under Ayatu's Captain Rin had started to strike terror into Argobian patrols. Whispered stories of ghosts in the jungle spread among enforcers. They spoke of invisible warriors who could disable a transport in minutes, of drones vanishing mid-flight, of arrows tipped with Zendo poison dropping soldiers in silence. At Dawa's war table, the air crackled with plans. Supply ship down near Teru, Rin reported, his eyes sharp. 2 dead, 1 drone intact. Their ships are heavy now, more firepower, less brains. Chad traced the gorge where the ambush had taken place. They're overarming. Trying to scare us. They're only making themselves slower, Ayatu said, her voice cool but iron hard. That's their mistake. Lyra, now 16, sat nearby sharpening a Zendo quill, fire in her eyes. Let's hit them again. Show them Krasley doesn't kneel. Ayatu smiled but felt a knot in her chest. Lyra's strength was growing, her spirit unbreakable. But war eats the young in silence. We will, she promised. But we fight smart. Then came the voice she hadn't heard in hours, her father, Bray. Lirith and Oris stand with us now, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. They saw the truth in fire. But Godia. They're the thorn in our side, Ayatu said quietly. We don't know which way they'll turn. Then stay ready, Bray said. Because if they turn on us, it won't be with warning, it'll be with arrows. As the meeting ended, Ayatu's thoughts turned dark. A ship, Argobian, cloaked, was already on its way to Godia, delivering weapons and lies. Hashem's plan was to pit them against Dawa from within. But Ayatu didn't know that yet. She only felt it, the uneasy quiet before something breaks. In the growing hum of drones and sharpening of blades, she walked the village once more, the leader of a rebellion not yet at full war, her daughter at her side, and her enemies drawing closer. But in the jungle, ghosts were waiting. And they would not be silent. The jungle was breathing again. Under the shadowed canopy, where stars vanished behind thick vines and the scent of wet earth clung to every breath, Ayatu led her thorn claws like ghosts through the ravine. The trail ahead had been chosen for its tight choke point, a place where the jungle could become a weapon. Word had come from a runner, an Argobian patrol ship would pass near Vrenka by nightfall, its hull full of weapons. The kind of shipment that could tip a war. Ayatu whispered to her second-in-command, Rin. We hit hard, vanish fast. The traps are ready, Rin said. Snare vines, Zendo spikes, pitfall lined with venom. No one walks out clean. Zara, crouched in shadow, checked her pulse rifle. Drones on this one. Fast ones. I've got a few shots left. Make them count. They didn't wait long. The ship's hum rose like a threat. Ayatu loosed her arrow before the landing struts even touched moss, direct hit. The ship groaned, tilted, vines snapping it into place. Enforcers spilled out, rifles blazing blue light. Ayatu's thorn claws hit them like jungle thunder, arrows split visors, spears struck soft armor. Then the drones dropped. Bright, deadly Virilium cores zipped through the dark, tearing into trees and flesh. Hits. Ayatu barked. Rin yanked the trigger vine, 2 enforcers gone, swallowed by sharpened death. She sprinted to the ship's bay where a crate of plasma rifles sat waiting. But something else arrived first. A roar, not from a drone. The Shalak burst from the trees, 6 clawed limbs flailing, its eyes lit with bloodlust. It crushed an enforcer beneath its weight, then lunged straight for Ayatu. Her arrow found its flank. Zara's bolt lit its hide. Rin speared its leg. Nothing slowed it. Then another danger appeared, silent, precise. Godia's archers. On the ridge above them, bowstrings sang. Their leader, Vale, stepped forward, his scarred face twisted in disgust. You bring grays here, he spat. This isn't your jungle. Ayatu stood her ground. Behind her, the Shalak snarled, wounded but still alive. Ahead, Vale's arrow pointed at her chest. We fight the same enemy, she said. Argob bleeds crassly. Not just Dawa. He didn't lower his bow, but he didn't fire. He held up an arrow marked with a spiral. Ayatu recognized it, Ismi's mark. Prove it, he said. The Shalak lunged again. And then Vale fired. So did his archers. Their quill arrows struck true, into the beast's skull, its eyes, its heart. The Shalak collapsed, twitching, dead before it hit the earth. Vale lowered his bow. Take your spoils. But know this, Godia watches. Ayatu nodded once. Then we watch back. The Thornclaws moved, carrying crates heavy with Argobian tech, rifles, cores, shields. A drone gave chase, but Ayata shattered it midair with a quill. As they reached Dawa's outskirts, the jungle closed behind them. In the armory, Zara unpacked a shield core pulsing with alien energy. Enough to hold a wall, she said. But Godia's not done with us. Ayatu turned the spiral-marked arrow in her hand, a question without an answer. We keep fighting, she said. And we keep watching. The jungle isn't done whispering. The council chamber on Argob was built for intimidation, dark, cold, and silent but for the hum of a glowing holographic map. At its center stood Hashim, robes flowing like smoke, eyes burning as Krasli's jungle shimmered beneath his stare. Dawa, once a village, now a rebellion, pulsed on the map, its walls reinforced with stolen tech, its warriors striking with brutal precision. They mock us, Hashim said, his voice slicing the stillness. These Thornclaws sabotage our ships, steal our weapons, and turn our technology against us. They arm their jungle city like a fortress. No more delays. Careful, Counselor Vera warned. The Virilium weapon isn't ready. An invasion could cost us. They've already cost us. Hashim roared, slamming his fist against the table. Every ship they down strengthens Dawa. If we wait, they unite the entire jungle. Let his, ever hungry for war, leaned in with a smirk. The fleet is ready. 500 ships, drones, enforcers. Let them bleed. Even Mekir, the cold-eyed scientist, nodded. The labor camps are producing faster than ever. If we take Dawa, we take their hybrids, for study. The vote passed. Hashim's lips curled. I'll lead the invasion myself. Moments later, Argob's war machine roared to life. In the belly of the forge, Kras children toiled under chains, piecing together the very weapons that would be used against them. Hashim didn't look at them. They were tools. Nothing more. At dawn, the fleet rose like a dark storm. Ships black as obsidian sliced through the crimson sky, engines shrieking as they pierced the jungle haze. From the flagship's bridge, Hashim watched the green canopy roll beneath them like an ocean. His invasion was three-pronged, one arm to torch outlying villages, one to seize Virilium, and the third, his own, to crush Dawa. Godia's archers, secretly armed by Argob, waited to strike from within, betrayal wrapped in familiar faces. Deploy drones, he ordered. No survivors. Drones buzzed from the ships like hornets, Virilium cores glowing, cannons hot. Hollow feeds flashed, Lyrith in flames, enforcers sweeping survivors into holding pens. Another squad drilled into a jungle ravine, carving a path to a glowing mine. Ahead, Dawa. A city of vines and steel, tribal grit and stolen power, standing in defiance. Bring it down, Hashim whispered. And yet, something tugged at him. The raids had been too precise. The Thornclaws too fast. Someone was feeding them intel, someone from within. Bastion? Chad? Ayatu? He clenched his fists. She haunted him, Ayatu, the outcast, the blue savage who refused to die. Her name was a thorn he couldn't shake. "They'll break," he muttered to no one. Below, in the heart of Dawa, Ayatu stood with her daughter and her strategist, the jungle shivering around them. Above, Argob's ship screamed toward them, carrying fire, betrayal, and war. The storm had arrived. Dawa's walls shook under the roar of Argobian ships, their shadows swallowing the twin suns' golden light. Ayatu stood atop a stone rampart, her iron vine bow drawn, her scarred frame taut with defiance. Below, the Thornclaws, Crass hunters, hybrids, and Vrenka's warriors, readied their stolen pulse rifles and quill-tipped arrows, eyes blazing with determination. Chad manned a salvaged turret, its hum a faint hope against the swarm. Lyra, her daughter, clutched a Zendo quill and darted between batteries, her hybrid strength fueling her resolve. "Stay with Chad," Ayatu ordered, her voice firm but strained. Lyra nodded and ran, just as drones descended in waves, beryllium cores pulsing, their plasma fire scorching the outer vines. Ayatu loosed an arrow, striking a drone cleanly, sending it crashing in a burst of sparks. Turrets fired. Thornclaws countered. But the enemy kept coming. "Rin!" Ayatu called. "Use the traps." From the jungle's edge, Rin signaled. Moments later, vines snapped and pits opened, dragging enforcers to their deaths. Yet the invaders pressed forward. Explosions rocked the walls. Debris grazed Ayatu's cheek, but she fought on, her arrows singing death. The eastern flank was the worst. Enforcers in black armor breached the outer wall. Ayatu met one in brutal hand-to-hand combat, her crass strength overwhelming his plasma rifle. But for every one they downed, two more came. To the west, Zara's unit fought fiercely, their stolen rifles blazing. But drone fire forced them into retreat. The southern defenses buckled under plasma strikes. And then from the north, a new terror arrived. Arrows whistled from the jungle. Godia's archers emerged, their quill-tipped shafts deadly, led by Vale and Izmi. At first, Ayatu tensed for betrayal. "You," she cried. "You side with Argob?" Vale's voice was steel. "We side with Crassley." He loosed an arrow, piercing an enforcer's visor. His archers followed, their fire cutting down drones and invaders alike. Izmi's spiral-marked arrows, once symbols of scorn, proved to be signals of allegiance. Godia's betrayal had been a ruse. Hashim's weapons had armed not traitors, but rebels. Yet the battle was far from over. A ship's cannon roared, blasting a breach in the wall. Enforcers surged through. Ayatu rallied her fighters. "For Crassley," she shouted. They met the charge with blade, bow, and grit. Lyra struck down a drone with a thrown quill. Chad's turret screamed with overuse. Ayatu fought alongside Vale, their alliance forged in blood. Above, Hashim watched from his flagship, his plan unraveling. His fleet split in three, his drones swarming, but Dawa endured. Ayatu's forces held the line. The jungle burned. But so did Crassley's will. The iron tide of Argob met the jungle's flame, and for the first time, it cracked. The jungle burned, its bioluminescent vines flickering under the glow of plasma bolts and smoldering wreckage. Dawa's walls groaned, the shield dome flickering as Argob's drones hammered it, their beryllium cores pulsing like dying stars. Ayatu fought in the north, her blade flashing as she clashed with Godia's archers, their quill-tipped arrows a deadly storm. Izmi stood on a high platform, her pulse rifle blazing, her eyes fierce with fire Ayatu mistook for hatred. "You're Argob's pawn, Izmi." Ayatu roared, dodging a bolt that seared her cloak. They'll burn us all. Izmi's laugh was sharp, her rifle lowering a fraction. You're blind, blue savage, she shouted. She fired, not at Ayatu, but at an Argobian drone swooping low. Its core exploded in a shower of sparks. Her archers shifted, their arrows turning on enforcers, their stolen rifles blazing against Hashem's forces. Ayatu froze, her bow raised, realization crashing like a wave. Godiya fights for Krasli, Izmi said, leaping from the platform, her quill armor glinting. Hashem thought he could buy us. We took his weapons to arm you. She tossed Ayatu a spiral-marked quill arrow, the same signal from Vale's raid. The tide turned. Godiya's archers, their hatred a feint, struck with lethal precision, arrows shredding drones, rifles felling enforcers. Ayatu rallied her thorn claws. For Dawa, she shouted. She charged, blade and bow a whirlwind, Izmi at her side. A drone swooped, cannon primed, but Lyra hurled a Zendo quill, shattering its core. Yet Hashem's eastern flank pressed harder. Enforcers breached the outer wall. Rin's traps slowed them, vines snapping, pits swallowing, but the tide was relentless. A Shalak roared from the jungle, slashing through enforcers, a chaotic ally. Ayatu drove it toward the breach, but a drone's blast felled it, its body collapsing. Zara's western unit held, rifles and arrows thinning the enemy, but the southern gate buckled. Chad's shield dome flickered. We can't hold much longer, he shouted, dragging Lyra behind cover. Ayatu and Izmi fought back to back. An enforcer lunged, plasma dagger flashing, but Ayatu's blade met his throat. Izmi fired point blank, her grin fierce. We planned this, Izmi said. The underground warned us, Bastion's credits bought us time to play Hashem's game. The truth burned. Godiya's raids were ruses. Their spiral arrows had always been signals. But the battle raged. Hashem's flagship loomed, its cannons cracking the sky. Ayatu sprinted to the central platform. Hold the heart, she cried. Enforcers surged through the breach. Ayatu led a counterattack, Thornclaws and Godiya's archers weaving through burning vines. Traps snapped. Drones fell tangled in thorns. Lyra fired with precision, unwavering. On his flagship, Hashem watched Dawa's resistance, Godiya's betrayal a blade in his plan. All forces, converge, he roared. But the jungle bled him dry. The shield dome collapsed, but Dawa's spirit held. Ayatu stood with Izmi, blood and ash staining their faces. We're not done, Ayatu said. Hashem's coming. Then we fight as one, Izmi answered. The jungle roared. Argob's tide faltered. Krasli's soul blazed on. The jungle around Dawa seethed with fury. Crass warriors crouched beneath its canopy, painted for war, their blue fur streaked with sigils, their weapons silent but ready. Ayatu's coalition, Vrenka, Lyrith, Oris, and others, had become a living storm. At the center of the deception stood Izmi of Godiya, who had fooled Hashem with a ruse of betrayal, her spiral-marked arrows a secret signal of alliance with Dawa. On his flagship's bridge, Hashem bellowed into a comm link, Izmi, confirm your position. Godiya must strike now. We advance, Hashem, came the cold reply. Dawa falls. Hashem grinned. Advance. Take their heart. But the jungle struck first. A thunderous war cry shattered the air, a million voices crashing from every direction. Crass warriors surged from vines and burrows, swinging down from canopy platforms, their spears and arrows gleaming. The Thornclaws led with stolen pulse rifles, while mothers, elders, and youths followed, turning the forest into a living flood. Argobian enforcers froze. Discipline meant little against raw, unrelenting rage. Their training crumbled as the crass fell upon them. Spears shattered armor. Arrows found necks. Pulse rifles roared. The jungle consumed the invaders. In the east, Hashem watched his plan unravel, his flanks collapsing, drones falling in sparks, enforcers vanishing in screams. Zara's Thornclaws carved through the western flank. The southern wave drowned in crass bodies. Shaylocks, roused by blood, charged the east, mauling enforcers. Ayatu's traps reaped a savage toll, vines snapping, pits devouring Argobians whole. Ayatu fought at Dawa's heart, her bow humming with lethal precision. Lyra stood beside her, pulse rifle steady, blue-gray eyes fierce. Chad held the shield dome, its flicker fading but still standing. Godia's arrows rained down with lethal grace. Ismi swung beside Ayatu, her armor shining. Hashem's weapons armed us, she said. Now we end him. Ayatu nodded. With you. Together, they turned the tide. Crass, hybrids, defectors, they became one. But Hashem's flagship still loomed, its cannons roaring in desperation. Ayatu led a strike team, Rin, Zara, Ismi, and 10 hunters, into the smoke and fire. Rin triggered a trap, bringing drones down in flames. Ismi's archers cleared the guards. The team surged into the ship. Sterile corridors met their fury. Alarms blared. Enforcers fell, Rin's spear, Ismi's arrows, Zara's rifle, and Ayatu's blade tearing through them. They reached the bridge. Outside, the jungle burned, Argobian bodies strewn like shattered glass. Hashem stood alone. You can't, he started. Crassly's not yours, Ayatu said, blade at his throat. Dawa stands. Your war ends here. Hashem's voice broke. The council. An explosion rocked the ship. A final counterattack. Plasma fire tore the hull. Enforcers stormed in. Zara's last shot dropped one. Rin's spear found another. Flames licked the corridors. Ismi blasted a path. Ayatu bound Hashem and dragged him through smoke and steel. The flagship buckled. A Shaylock tore through the wreckage outside. The team sprinted, lungs burning, until the jungle swallowed them. Behind them, the ship exploded, lighting the trees in fire. They emerged, scorched and bloodied, Hashem bound and silent. Dawa's walls loomed, battered but standing. Lyra ran to Ayatu. You did it, Mama. Chad's face was lined with ash. The council's ships are retreating. We've won, for now. Ismi stepped beside Ayatu. Godia chose crassly. We chose you. The jungle quieted. The war cry faded. Thousands of Crass lay dead, but Dawa endured. Bound in vines and blood, Crassly's soul burned on. Hashem knelt, defeated. Above, Argob reeled, its conquest shattered. Today, Crassly's spirit had roared, and the stars would remember. The jungle around Dawa was silent beneath the golden twin suns, its wounds hidden but not healed. Smoke clung faintly to the air, an echo of the firestorm that had shattered Argob's invasion. Dawa's walls stood tall, stone and iron vine laced together like sinew and bone, a monument to the million crass warriors who had refused to kneel. In the heart of the clearing stood Ayatu, her quill-woven cloak draped over battle-worn shoulders, her black eyes hard as obsidian. Chad adjusted a salvaged Argobian condevice nearby, while Lyra, her hybrid daughter, stood guard, rifle across her back, her fierce blue-gray gaze scanning the crowd. On either side, Ismi of Godia and Rin of the Thornclaws flanked Ayatu, warriors who had once fought separately now bound in unity. At their feet, bound in iron vine and kneeling in the dirt, was Hashim. His proud Argobian robes were reduced to rags. His once commanding face sagged with exhaustion and disbelief. All around, crass warriors gathered, war paint smeared but eyes unbroken. They had endured. They had survived. And now, they watched the architect of their torment kneel. "You came to enslave crassly," Ayata said, her voice carrying like a drumbeat. "You called us savages. You burned our homes. You fed our enemies with your tech and your lies. And still, we stand." Hashim looked up, sneering, but his voice was dry. "You're jungle dwellers," he said. "Feral. Uncivilized. We're the soul of this world," Ayatu answered. "And you're the echo of a dead empire." Ismi stepped forward, her quill-tipped bow in hand. "You armed us, Hashim. Godia played your game, but never for your win. We marked our arrows with spirals. You mistook them for surrender." Realization flickered across Hashim's face. Not rage. Not resistance. Just shame. But before Ayatu could speak again, the sky ripped open with a roar. A cloaked Argobian ship dropped from the clouds, Counselor Lethus's vessel. Plasma cannons firing into the clearing. Drones spilled out like locusts, beryllium cores flashing, targeting the crass. "Ambush!" Chad shouted. "Thornclaws, to arms!" Ayatu roared. Rin's squad surged from the tree line, quill arrows slicing through drones. Zara's pulse rifle blazed, mowing down enforcers rappelling from the ship. Ismi's archers returned fire, spiral-tipped shafts piercing the chaos. In the confusion, Hashim broke loose. Ayatu chased him through fire and smoke, vines cracking beneath their feet, plasma bolts scarring the trees. A Shalak thundered into the fray, its claws eviscerating a pair of enforcers. Ayatu vaulted over its thrashing limbs and brought Hashim down with a tackle that shook the roots. "You don't get to run," she growled, binding him again. Above, Lethus's ship fired a last barrage, but Chad had hacked a salvaged drone. It turned midair, launched its own barrage, and struck the Argobian ship. Sparks ignited the hull as it spun away in retreat. Silence fell again. The rescue had failed. Ayatu hauled Hashim to his knees. "You'll leave," she said, her voice as final as stone. "You and your remaining enforcers. 100,000, spared. But if Argob ever returns, the jungle will remember. And so will we." Hashim blinked, his voice cracking. "You show mercy." "Because we are not you," Ayata said. "We fight for life. Not dominion." Crass warriors opened a path. One by one, the Argobian prisoners boarded salvaged ships. Hashim, still bound, was the last. He turned one final time, looking back, not in defiance, but in defeat. The ships rose and vanished into the sky, leaving behind the fire and soil that had rejected them. Crassly stood, battered but burning bright. And the stars would remember who turned back the tide. The platform at Dawa's heart shimmered beneath the golden twin suns. Its surface, once scorched by war, now pulsed with new life, iron vine freshly woven into the lattice, scars filled with purpose rather than pain. Ayatu stood at the summit, wind tugging her quill cloak, eyes sweeping over a city reborn from ash and memory. Children's laughter echoed through the jungle canopy, their blue fur glinting as they danced between newly built platforms. Crass traditions and salvaged Argobian tech blended seamlessly, shield generators hummed beneath woven huts, turret towers rose beside open-air markets where quill blades and iron vine armor were traded alongside memory crystals and pulse cells. The tribes had merged. Drenka's poets, Liritha's builders, Oris's lore keepers, and Godia's silent archers had all laid their roots in Dawa's soil. And in classrooms hung between trees, crass and hybrid youth studied star charts, their minds reaching beyond the jungle. Ayatu turned as Lyra approached. Taller now, shoulders squared with new purpose. Her pulse rifle was gone, replaced by a slate etched with the cosmos. "They're watching," she said, nodding skyward. "But Argob won't come again." Chad appeared beside them, fingers dancing over a repurposed Argobian Comcore. "They've shifted. Mekker's reports say they're looking inward now, science, not conquest." Far across the stars, in the once mighty council chamber of Argob, Hashem stood disgraced. Vera led the charge against him. "You lost 400,000 in your arrogance," she spat. "Crassly broke you." The council stripped him of power. Argob's people, wearied by death and deception, turned from politicians to scientists. The Dark Pyramid, once a monument to war, became a sanctuary of research, genetics, astronomy, cultural understanding. Mekker's team studied crass Argob compatibility not for exploitation, but exploration. Crassly thrived. Dawa's walls expanded outward, vines laced with energy fibers. Its people. Crass, hybrids, even defectors, debated in tribal councils, their voices fierce but fair. Vine-powered shields and quill-forged tools adorned a city that honored both instinct and intellect. It was not Argob's sterile perfection, it was something wilder. Truer. As the twin suns dipped toward the horizon, Ayatu stood with Lyra and Chad on the edge of the platform. Below, torches sparked. Music began. The jungle sang with celebration. "We built this," Ayatu said softly, her heart heavy with the memory of Bray. "For him," Lyra whispered. "And for everyone who didn't make it." Chad took her hand, his eyes reflecting starlight. "We're not alone anymore. Dawa is more than a city. It's our dawn." Above them, the stars shimmered. The jungle rustled with peace, its song deep and eternal. Crassly's war was over, but its story had just begun. A story not of conquest, but of rebirth. And somewhere, light years away, Argob looked back, not with hunger, but with awe. The future belonged to both. 10,000 years had passed since the war that had broken Argob's ambition in the jungles of Kresher, the name the Crassly people had always claimed as their own. What Argob once called a backwater world, now pulsed with vibrant life. Dawa, once a fledgling city built from blood and bioluminescent vines, had grown into a canopy metropolis. Platforms soared among the trees, woven with shimmering iron vine, powered by reclaimed Argobian cores. The Kresheri, descendants of warriors, hybrids, and poets, lived among the stars and roots. They taught their young not only the lore of the jungle but the secrets of the galaxy, how to read wormhole tides, how to harness beryllium, how to blend instinct with innovation. Their bows still sang with iron vine tension, their shields still bloomed from jungle energy, but their eyes now held starlight. Meanwhile, Argob, the once sterile moon, had changed. After the fall of Hashem and the rise of Mekker's movement, the Argobians turned inward. They evolved, physically and socially. Their eyes grew wider, bodies thinner, minds sharper. They became the galaxy's archivists, probing the cosmos with wormhole drives and cold precision, always observing, rarely interfering. Their politics dissolved, replaced by a singular devotion to knowledge. The legacy of Ayatu, the warrior who spared an enemy and forged a nation, lived on. On one soft-lit morning, under twin suns, a ship shimmered through a wormhole over Dawa's skyline. Its hull gleamed like starlight. Kresheri children froze, watching its descent. Warriors readied bows. Tension stirred beneath the canopy. Tira, a young girl of hybrid bloodline, stood tall on the highest platform, a carved quill tablet in hand. She was descended from Lyra herself, her gray-blue fur marked her as both class and legacy. The ship's ramp hissed open. From it emerged Sirik, an Argobian envoy, skin silver pale, eyes endless and black. "We seek Virilium," Sirik said. "An environmental data on Kresher." Kale, Tira's father and a respected elder, stepped forward, hand resting near his iron-vine spear. "You still call it crassly," he said. "Do you forget what we endured?" Sirik's expression did not change. "We use the term of record. But we come in peace." A drone floated from the ship, silent, scanning. A crass archer loosed a quill arrow. It shattered mid-air, sparks flying. The jungle responded. Bows were drawn. Spears lifted. Tira raised her tablet, stepping between them. "Ayatu chose peace once," she said, her voice steady. "You live because she showed mercy. Trade with respect, or leave." Sirik raised their hands. Their ship's weapons powered down. "Understood." The warriors hesitated, then lowered their weapons. Trade proceeded, beryllium crystals exchanged for star charts and medical tech. But the moment lingered. When Sirik turned to leave, he paused. "You are not what we expected," he said to Tira. "We never were," she replied. "But we remember." The ship vanished through the wormhole. The canopy city exhaled. Kresher remained unbowed, its spirit intact. In the silence that followed, Kale placed a hand on Tira's shoulder. "They may return," he said. Tira's gaze fixed on the stars. "So will we." In that promise, in that pause between peace and possibility, Kresher stood eternal, rooted in memory, reaching ever toward the stars. Kresher's twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting golden shadows over Dawa's sprawling canopy cities. Vines shimmered with bioluminescence, and iron-vine platforms pulsed with the heartbeat of a civilization reborn. In the High Council chamber, Tira stood before the elders, her hands cradling a carved tablet and a humming Argobian data core, twin relics of two civilizations fated to intertwine. Kale, her father and a hybrid elder, stood beside her, his eyes wary. Around them, leaders of Kresher debated the latest Argobian request, detailed ecological data, samples from their ecosystem, and deeper access to the jungle's core. The unease was thick. Though the Greys, Argobians to the stars, archivists to the galaxy, had evolved far beyond their conquering ancestors, the echoes of war still stirred beneath Kresher's skin. Across the stars, on a blue-green world called Earth, humans whispered stories of pale beings with black eyes who came in silence, probing and vanishing. Their stories sounded absurd, tales of strange experiments and bottom probing, but they were rooted in truth. The Argobians were scientists, driven by ecological curiosity, not malice. Their fascination with digestive systems, with fecal samples, wasn't humiliation, it was their way of understanding survival. Tira had studied the core herself. "They want to know how Kresher thrives," she told Kale. "Our diet, our balance, our very endurance." Kale frowned. "Understanding is one thing. Ownership is another. They still call our world crassly. Then we teach them who we are, she replied. Not as enemies, but as kin. The council approved her proposal, a joint expedition to a distant world. A message was sent through the wormhole, and days later, under twin suns, a ship emerged like a second dawn. Sirik returned, their silver frame untouched by time, eyes as unreadable as ever. This time, Crusher greeted them not with spears, but with purpose. Tira led the delegation. Hybrids, crass warriors, jungle scientists with quill tools and vine maps. Sirik brought drones, scanners, and data collectors. The jungle watched. A distant Shalok roared. We propose a shared journey, Tira said, presenting the star charts. To explore, not conquer. To learn, not forget. Sirik inclined their head. Crusher shaped us. We accept. Yet instinct flared. A drone scanned too close, and a warrior scarred by history fired a quill arrow. It grazed Sirik's shoulder, drawing a glimmer of silver blood. Drones armed themselves. Chaos trembled. Stand down. Tira commanded, stepping between them. This is not who we are. Silence fell. The drones powered down. Sirik met her gaze. Your spirit remains strong. Together, they launched the expedition. Crusher's vine ship and Argob's starcraft slipped through the wormhole, arriving on a world lush and uncharted. There, Crass and Grey worked side by side, mapping routes and stars, collecting samples that whispered of shared origins. Their tools, quill and probe, merged. When Tira returned to Dawa, the data core glowed with wonder. Ayata's mercy lit a fire, she said. We carry it into the stars. Kale placed his spear aside, eyes soft with pride. So long as we choose our path. Above them, the wormhole shimmered, a gateway not of conquest, but of kinship. Crusher's jungle sang again, not in fear, but in welcome. A new era had begun. The universe was wide, the stars waiting, and Crusher's flame burned too bright to ever be forgotten.